Have you ever had a dream that later turned out to be almost directly related to real life? If so, stay tuned because this story is going to blow your mind. And of course, I would like to know your opinion. After watching this video, you can share your paranormal experience by messaging the WhatsApp number shown on screen. It doesn't matter how long it is, you can add photos, videos, or anything you think is necessary to make your story as complete as possible. I'll review the material and contact you if I have questions. Before we begin, if you enjoy the channel and aren't subscribed, please subscribe. It's free and you really help me so the channel keeps growing and reaches new people every day. I also want to thank all the members who have joined the membership in these last few days. There are really a lot of us, so endless thanks to all of you and also to everyone who hasn't joined. You support the channel by sharing, commenting, liking and watching the videos daily. Friends, now we're really starting this new episode right away.
I used to live in a house that had a very peculiar and dark energy. It was a new house, but honestly, the energy you felt there was quite intense. It would harass you. It was something really heavy, and you felt in danger all the time, like you were being watched and everything.
I know the phrase may upset many people. I'm sensitive to the paranormal and fully understand why, but just know it's as simple as anything else in life. Each person goes through this from a different place and it's very hard to understand not only what's happening around us, but also to make sense of it. What is the reason, if there is one, because it's not always the case, for witnessing certain anomalies in our environment? I want to tell you something very personal, something I was not only involved in, but that also involved a person who unfortunately was the victim of something atrocious. And after this, she was trapped in a very, very dark place. I live in a nice neighborhood in Buenos Aires near Ezeiza airport in Barrio Uno. And in this house, incredible things happened to me, but today I'm here to tell you about a specific event that left me surprised, thoughtful, and maybe it was what caused a big change in my life. From then on, as I told you, I went through different situations in this house, but somehow dreams had a greater influence on me. Many times they were so vivid that it was hard to tell when they were real and when they weren't, and even some paranormal things were connected to them. But speaking concretely and in a slightly more logical way, we have to admit that dreams can just be dreams. Beyond what you see in them, no matter how much they move, shock or scare us, they don't have to be related to anything specific. Most of the time, we think a dream is a divine sign, but that's not true. It's a product of our own mind while we rest and repair our body. But there's another issue, and this is where the strange part begins. Some of these dreams could be more... Maybe we don't realize it at first, maybe we do, but there are a few times when we know how to act. What should we do with this information that's coming to us, and how do we manage to decipher each little thing? Obviously, reaching a logical and concrete answer. I want to tell you what happened to me.
One night, I dream I wake up in the middle of the night and go downstairs to the first floor where the house entrance is. And the house had two small rectangular windows, one next to the other, and there was the door. At that time, I had a bull terrier Tyron, and I dreamed that Tyron came with me. He was next to my right leg. I look out the window, I don't know why, and I see a girl crossing the street. On the sidewalk across the street, next to a very beautiful tree that a neighbor had. She was a girl with long blonde hair, very thin, dressed in pink. She was wearing a pink t-shirt and a short pink skirt. And right away in the dream, I see her and I get chills. All of this is in the dream. When I start following this girl, it was nighttime in the dream. And it seemed totally illogical to me that someone would be dressed like that because it's winter. And when I start to look down at her feet, I don't see any feet. That's when I realize she's a disembodied being.
That's when I stepped away from the window and saw that the front door next to me was starting to open slowly. That's when I realized that this entity had crossed the street and was now about to enter my house. But not only that. First, I sensed the presence was evil. My real-life dog was also there. He had positioned himself behind me and wouldn't stop growling and barking at this girl for even a second. The question I kept asking myself was, who was this woman? Because I had never seen her or even dreamed about her. And what happened next was terrifying. I hurried, closed the door, and also put on the latch we had. But just a few seconds later, I saw how the latch bent, broke, and the door burst open. After this, the girl comes in and practically lunges at me, grabbing both of my forearms very tightly. Her face was just inches from mine, but she didn't say a single word. And this is where something else happened. Even though she didn't say a single word, I could perfectly understand her message in my own mind. And she was screaming at me in a very violent way that I had to help her. She kept repeating over and over that I should help her in a horrible way. I realized it was an evil entity. All I could do in the dream was firmly tell her she wasn't welcome and had to leave. She wasn't allowed in my house or near me. She let go of me, moved about a meter away, and telepathically told me, "Will you help me even if you don't want to?" This wasn't a request but a demand, and it even sounded threatening. After this, I wake up extremely tense. An important detail is that my dog, who was sleeping with me, stood to the side and cried. The crazy part was I could feel the pressure of her hands on my forearms. It was something that I have rarely felt so intensely in my life. But going back to the same thing, this could easily have been a dream, a nightmare like the ones we all have from time to time. And I tried to take it that way so I wouldn't get carried away, although something made me change my mind. First of all, it was that every night after that, I dreamed about her. The difference was that she wasn't inside my house, but she was walking outside. I could see her through the windows, and her message reached me once again, violently and demanding that I had to help her. It happened like...
Around 20 days passed, and I had already arranged an appointment with a girl named Sandra before this happened. In the town, she worked in Lomas de Zamora and did readings of sarcastic records. I booked it just out of curiosity. I had made an appointment about 2 months ago. Well, the time came to go, so I went. I didn't tell anyone about this dream, not a single person. And when I get to the place, the girl arrives late, and I stay there waiting. It was a bookstore in Lomas called Devas, which was a bookstore for esoteric texts, spiritual growth, and so on. I was there waiting for the girl until she arrived. She comes, apologizes to me, a very pretty girl, blonde, blue eyes, very beautiful. And she says to me, "Hi, are you Lorena?" "Yes, sorry for being late. I was delayed. I don't know what happened," she says to me. "Let's go upstairs." We went up to a sort of attic that was in the bookstore and started the session.
When we arrived, without any prior discussion, we began the session. She specifically didn't want to know anything about me beforehand, because this way we made sure that the answers and whatever came up would be genuine. She told me that she would open the records and, in the meantime, she would tell me some things, while she would write others down directly. I agreed, and we started. For several minutes I was silent, and what happened was incredible. A girl was writing in a notebook when she looked to the side and said, "Please wait," as if someone next to her had asked for something. She did this at least 4 times before looking at me and asking something that completely caught me off guard. "Lorena, what happened in your dreams? What did the girl in pink want from you?" And look, I want to be very clear about something. No one, especially this woman, knew about my dreams or the girl in pink who had appeared to me for weeks. I was frozen until I asked her, "How do you know about this? Is she here?" She nods and slightly tilts her head to the left and says to me, "Yes, she's here with us." And not only that, she's very angry. She keeps yelling that you don't want to help her and that you can't refuse. I told her I had no idea how to help, didn't know who she was or what she wanted, and it terrified me. A disembodied spirit, if that's what she was, basically threatened me to grant her wish. This girl told me that she couldn't figure out who she was or what she wanted either. She just heard her saying that I had to help her, and she could also sense the great anger she had. The thing was that we continued the session as best we could, finally finished, and then she asked me for a few minutes to talk about something she needed to tell me. She explained to me in a very practical, loving way.
And understandable.
That although we all have the gift of mediumship, only a few keep it as they grow up. And if we do, it's no accident. Based on their beliefs and knowledge. Those people have the possibility, if not the obligation, to help those souls who, for different reasons, remain in an intermediate state and need to be freed. Maybe by delivering a message or simply helping them understand that they need to move on. There are many possibilities, but the most important thing at that moment was for me to accept and understand that maybe I could help her, and that was the right thing to do. We talked a lot for several minutes and I asked her for help. I needed to have at least some guidance about this. I had no idea how to face it or what to do to help this girl. She explained different things to me and suggested that I do something, at least try. But she made it clear I shouldn't do it at night, at least the first few times, and should use daylight. And if my dog was nearby, with me, even better. She said this because in that first meeting we were together and it would help me somehow feel calmer. This included prayers, lighting incense and candles, meditating, and attempting direct contact with the entity. And outside of dreams, and I want to be honest, many days went by and I didn't dare to do this. I was terrified because I felt like I was invoking a dead person or something else. The goal was obviously to help her, but what if it didn't turn out that way? And what if this entity attacked me in another way, without me knowing how to defend myself? Therefore, you can understand that it was a terrifying situation, because let's not forget that not a single night went by without me dreaming about her. It was something overwhelming for me and it was really wearing me down in every way.
One Saturday afternoon when I was alone at home, I decided to implement it and do it. I gathered my courage and I did it. So I set up the candles, the incense, my dog came over by himself and I started. I went into pretty deep meditation, and at that moment, she had told me that I needed to put a blue protective bubble around myself, and she said maybe she would want to come in, but you should never let her enter your field because it's your protective field. When I'm like that, I'm inside, feeling fine and alert, when suddenly this girl shows up, banging on the bubble and screaming to come in. And I couldn't hear her, but it was obvious she was angry and screaming. So I told her, calm down, now I'm going to help you, calm down. Then at that moment, she calms down and with one of her hands, she points to a space in that timeless place and shows me an image. A scene from her life when she was incarnated.
I saw clearly, as if it were a movie, this girl who was with another young man of the same age. They were about 30 years old, more or less. This man starts to check a small bag she had, and at one point he gets angry. He went crazy, yelling at her and making gestures with his hands. They were, from what I understood, in a kitchen. She was completely terrified, and he came closer, gave her a hard shove, and she hit herself against a piece of furniture. Then I saw how this man grabbed a knife with a black handle, came closer and stabbed her with it. First in the stomach area, then he pulls it out. Keeps hurting her all over her body. Over and over again, without stopping. She ends up lying on the floor and dies in that kitchen. Afterward, the movie fades and I see the girl's soul before me. But now she wasn't angry, she was crying, her face completely changed. At that moment, she showed a sadness I can hardly describe. Then I realized something. She didn't fully understand what had happened, and she couldn't understand why her partner, the love of her life, had done that to her. I tried to explain to her as best as I could, in the way it came out at the moment and in a gentle way, that not all of us are the same, and that her boyfriend had possibly been influenced by some energy that completely took over him. But beyond everything, she had to be at peace and move on, because what was waiting for her was much better than what she had.
In life?
I also told her that she had to let go of and forget that last scene of her life where she was murdered.
Her features changed. She became like very material and physical, and she nearly smiled at me. And then at that moment I started to see more color in her face, and she just stared at me. She was no longer touching my protective bubble. She was looking at me, just looking at me, and at that moment, as she kept looking at me, she seemed relieved. I see something lighting up from the back, and things start to appear, like when there's a really, really bright light and people are coming forward. A person whose facial features you can't see, but you can see the outline of their silhouette. Well, 3 of them were coming. I asked her, "Do you feel safe to go?" And she nodded yes, turned around and left with them, who welcomed her by putting their arms around her shoulders, and she left.
Immediately after, I opened my eyes and looked around. I sat cross-legged on the floor, and after a while I felt incredible peace. It felt extremely good, being able to help this girl. The next day, I spoke with this woman who had guided me through all of this, with whom I had the Akashic Record session. And she, very happy, congratulated me for having done my first release. And believe it or not, as they say, I never dreamed about her again. Thanks for reading to the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. I'll say goodbye for now, see you in a few days, and send a big hug to all of you.